So everybody who's around my age remembers Toys R Us. I mean, look, if you're a millennial, odds are you've either been to Toys R Us, or your parents have gone to Toys R Us, things like that. So they're a bit of I guess they were a bit of a mainstay when it came to toys back in the day. But unfortunately for them, they were unable to adapt to some of the new circumstances, the rise of the internet, for example, Amazon, etc. But if you ask them about why they're going bankrupt, well, then they would come up with a different answer. See, they actually believe that it's not their fault or not any of the debt load that I'll explain later. No, it's those stinking millennials. How dare you not have enough children? Now, they said, this is according to, I believe, Business Insider, retailers, particularly ones that target newborns and children, are taking notice that millennials are not having children. They wrote in its 2017 annual filing that the declining birth rate was hurting U.S. sales. They said, quote, most of our end customers are newborns and children, and as a result, our revenues are dependent on the birth rates in countries where we operate. In recent years, many countries' birth rates have dropped or have stagnated as their population ages, and education and income levels increase. A continued and significant decline in the number of newborns and children in these countries could have a material adverse effect on our operating results. Now notice how they're looking at education and income levels. They're going up, but they're making it so that people have less children. That means less profit. Damn it. They're looking at that as if that's a bad thing. Again, that's because, of course, that is their profit margin. But generally, when I look at rising incomes and education levels, you would think that that's a pretty good thing. Not so when it comes to Toys R Us. In fact, the national toy chain announced that it would shutter or sell each of its 735 stores. The country's declining birth rate is not the sole reason, however, for their bankruptcy. They also cite growing competition from online retailers, $4.8 billion worth of debt, the rising popularity of online games, and an increase in labor costs as factors that damaged its business. Now, that $4.8 billion, it kind of got snuck in there, right? That's actually really, really relevant. And let me explain. So, look, Toys R Us, even back in the day, it was struggling with some debt issues, right? So there were some debt issues, and they needed to get bought out. They got bought out by none other than Bain Capital. Bain Capital, of course, is Mitt Romney's old group, and they also got bought out by another company, so it was like a shared buyout. Now, you know how they operate. So they come in and they buy up a company, and then they take the amount that they bought the company for and put it as debt onto the company. And then, of course, they go and loot the rest of the assets. So here's Toys R Us having to get stuck with an enormous debt load into which they, of course, had to pay to service that debt. That money couldn't go into, of course, making their stores a better place to shop or paying their employees. So, yeah, those are some major issues. Now, look, if you're not paying your employee a living wage, I don't think most millennials will actually want to shop there. But again, it's not just that. They are right that millennials are having less children. In fact, millennial women are increasingly delaying parenthood or foregoing it altogether, as reflected by the U.S.'s declining fertility rate. Fertility hit a record low in 2016, bringing the rate among women ages 15 to 44 to 62 births per 1,000 women. Now, some experts are saying that the U.S. is at risk of becoming a demographic time bomb, kind of like Japan. Well, look, if you were a millennial, would you want to have kids? I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons that millennials are not having families. And one of them is because they can't. I mean, the average student loan debt balance is about $37,172. And there are people with six-figure debts from going to college. Student loans are, again, they're over $1 trillion just in America. So, and look, we're the only place that has such high college, because most of the rest of the industrialized world actually has either free college or vastly reduced costs for college. They have some sort of universal education, and they also have universal health care. And these countries often have higher wages than we do. Right now, we have a $7.25 an hour, $7.25 an hour minimum wage. Now, that is actually worth less than the minimum wage was back in 1960. So you actually had more buying power back in the 1960s when you were when the minimum wage was somewhere around $3 an hour. Again, you adjust that to inflation, that's somewhere around a little over $7.25, about $8 in today's dollars. So our dollars today do not I'm sorry, our dollars today do not stretch as far as they used to. Now, it's not just that, but look, if you want to have a family, well, it helps to have a home. Well, housing is insane. According to the housing site Zillow, houses and even apartments are too expensive for most young people whose wages until recently weren't going up even as costs were. And according to CNBC's Diana Ulick, now there are no more low-priced homes. Now, Zillow also says home ownership is simply out of reach for many Americans, including many families in today's housing market. More Americans are renting than at any time in recent history. And unfortunately, of course, the rent also continues to go up and up and up and up. So, look, today's buyers, they're not young people. Today's buyers have a median age of 40, are married and living with a partner at 70%, earn a median income of $87,500 annually, and are overwhelmingly white. Zillow's data shows that only 39% of millennials are able to make the standard recommended down payment of 20% or more, and 21% put down the bare minimum in order to secure a home loan. With all of that, all those problems facing millennials, would you want to have kids? Look, maybe instead of blaming millennials, which seems to be really, really popular. Again, millennials have killed yet another industry, yet another company. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we should actually make it so that millennials aren't the most fucked generation in modern history. Do something about the massive student loan debt. Do something about housing prices. Do something about the economy that has been destroyed since Reagan. Maybe if we do something about that, then people might consider actually starting families. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.